Hi, I'm Jason Ray with SimplyHome with today's tech tip. Today we're going to be talking about the SimplyHome stove sensor. One of the most common concerns we get from a lot of our customers is supporting people with their cooking concerns. Oftentimes, if you have concern about someone cooking independently, you either have to remove the stove, unplug it, or have somebody come in to assist them with their cooking. So we created this stove sensor a number of years ago to help overcome those concerns. And what it does is it will alert you of a couple of different things. One, if you want to know that your stove has been turned on, you can have that immediate alert as soon as the stove comes on. You can also know how long your stove has been on for. So maybe it's okay for the person you're supporting to cook independently, but you just want to know if the stove has been left on for an extended period of time, like 30 minutes or an hour. So it can do that. But it also works in conjunction with your SimplyHome system and the other sensors on that system to generate a single alert based off of the different activities found working around the home on the sensor. So an example of that would be if the stove comes on and is still on and there's been no activity detected or motion detected in the kitchen area for an extended period of time, say 10 minutes, a single alert can be generated for that. Or if the stove is on and someone goes and lays down in bed or leaves the home, again, an alert can be generated for that. The stove sensor itself is pretty simple. If you look at it here, this is the 4-prong version that we have. You'll see the 4 different holes here and then the 4-prong plug on this side. And this is for newer model stoves and homes that were built since 1995. We also have a 3-prong version for older homes and older stove models that works exactly the same. So the sensor itself, you'll see in this plug right here, that's where the current wire coming out of your stove plugs into the device, and then this plugs back into the wall. And what it's going to do is it's going to detect when the stove has been turned on and again generate the alerts that we talked about. Oftentimes this is simply placed back behind the stove or in the drawer underneath the stove so that it's out of the way and not going to be any issue from being out in the open. After looking at all the things it can do, it's also important to talk about the things that it can't do. One is it doesn't work on a gas stove. It only works on the 2 different electric stove types that we talked about. It's also not going to detect a fire, obviously. It's only going to detect when the stove is on. It's not going to be able to detect what's actually happening on the stove. And finally, it's not going to shut the stove off. Again, you will know when the stove is turned on and how long it's been on for, but it's not going to turn the stove off or do any of the things that we talked about. The other thing to address is the most common issue or concern that we have, which is false alarms. So especially on some of the newer model stoves that have more sophisticated electronics, that can sometimes generate a false alarm because of the workings of the electronics. And if we have an issue like that, the stove sensor, it needs to either be recalibrated on site or we can replace it with a different recalibrated version for you. So through the utilization of a SimplyHome stove sensor, we can address a number of things. Obviously, helping somebody cook more independently and more safely by staff and family members and support team knowing what's going on and knowing that cooking has begun or how long it's been going on for. But it also gives that consumer choice and allows them to make those decisions on their own when they want to start cooking as opposed to waiting for staff to come by and help them. And then staff or family or whoever supporting that person can know that it has begun when they start cooking, and if they need to respond and help them or redirect them, they can do that as appropriate. So if you have any questions or concerns about a stove sensor you have or acquiring one, you can contact your SimplyHome customer support representative at 877-684-3581.